Welcome to the Spectrum Connection, a podcast hosted by Jess
and Alyce. As two mums of neurodivergent kids, we are here to share our experiences, insights, and advice with other parents navigating this unique journey.
Join us as we discuss everything from daily challenges to breakthrough moments, all with a focus on understanding and celebrating neurodivergence. It is our last episode of the season. I'm excited.
How did we even get here? I don't even know how we got here.
We did a whole season.
I know. I was thinking the other day, like how long we actually sat on this idea, and then we were like, oh, let's just try. From one, like, and then the next thing I know, we're like recording 2 or 3 episodes.
I think that's how it goes, isn't it? Like once you go, you go. But I think it just took us a little while to like jump, I think. And then we're like, yeah, we can do this. And I think just as the weeks went on, we got more confident. And here we are at episode 12 of our first season. And yeah, it's so exciting that we got here. And we thought we'd do kind of like a recap episode of the season, reflecting on it and answering all your questions. Yeah.
Excited, mixing it up a bit today.
Yeah, and I think we've also always reminded you guys about self-care in each episode, but we thought we'd throw the question back at you guys on our Instagram stories, and you guys had some really good ones that came in. I asked about self-care that you can do in like 5 minutes because we all know
all the time we get.
Yeah. So had some interesting.
All right, well, I'm going to read out a couple of these. Oh, there was actually a few, so let me see if I can get how many I can get through, because some of these are really great ideas. We have facial massage, coffee and a face mask, painting my nails, painting, sit at my pond, watch and feed the birds in the garden. It sounds really nice. Sit down for 1 hot cup of coffee every morning, no matter what else is going on. Yeah, that's me. The kids know I'm having coffee. Don't ask me for anything until I've had my coffee.
That's true.
Make sure I make the effort to listen to my favorite music in the car. Take a shower with the door closed. Have a cuppa. Take a walk with the kids in the pram. Making sure I get my skincare routine in morning and night. Watch YouTube, meditate in the mornings when I can. Just 10 minutes of breath work can change my day. Get to work early when possible. Music on, slowly eating my breakfast at my desk in peace. That's a good routine setup, just waiting to get to work. Sit outside with herbal tea or coffee just in the morning. In the morning, just being. It's not quick and easy, but I wake up at 4 a.m. before the kids get up to go to the gym. Dedication. I would love to get up before the kids, but that alarm goes off and I just hit snooze. I really need to get better at that. Light a candle out of reach of the kids, of course, saved first. There was a couple of shower that sometimes, and I do have a tip for this one actually, and I don't know if anyone else has heard of this. So I do this when I do get that 5 minutes in the shower and the kids are occupied and they're not killing each other, or my husband's got something like that. Is that thing where there has a specific name to it, but I can't think of it, where you just kind of stand in the shower and you envision like the water being gross, like stay with me here. So as the water goes over your body, so I'm thinking, some people might have a sensory ick right now. As the water runs over your body, you envision like it being gross water, like muddy, like a dark color, and it washes down through the drain. So you kind of envision it. So it's washing all the bad away. And then when you feel like that's enough, then you picture light. So you picture like light over the top and washing down, and it's light water. And it sounds really woo-woo, but I've tried it and it actually really works when you're stressed. There must be some it's like a meditation or some science behind it. I don't really know, but I've tried it and it really works. So if all you can get is that 5 minutes, maybe Google it first, because I might not have explained it properly.
The power of the mind, like I think a lot of them had to do with either like breath work or mind work. And I think, yeah, it can be a little bit woo-woo sometimes, and you can sort of think, oh, why am I doing this? But I think it almost just like forces you to stop thinking from anything else, thinking about your brain's to-do list. But I think, yeah, no, I think they're really helpful, and I'm going to try that one.
So it literally feels like you're washing away all the stress and then you're like replenishing with good energy. So yeah, try it.
I have to try
Like I
that
said.
one.
And then the last two that we had was go to the gym and another face mask while having a bath or green tea.
Yeah.
And I think I incorporate all those type of things I've said it before, but while I'm doing stuff, like I've put kids to sleep with a face mask on, or like sometimes you just have to weave it in.
Yeah. And I think that is just the reality. And when you become okay with that and implement things like this, I think it can get better. Your mindset gets better about things. Obviously, ideally, we'd give all the mums and dads out there some self-care time, like hours and hours a week, but it's not always possible and it's not realistic in our
Yeah.
situation. So I pop a podcast on when I put Jacob to bed because he doesn't necessarily need me. He just needs me to sit on a particular spot on his bed.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah,
there.
that's the same.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just incorporating things into what you're already doing. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I was just thinking a lot of these suggestions like are more, I don't know, geared toward mums. They kind of get that mum vibe. But when I was delivering a workshop once, we always talk about self-care, and a father said that part of his self-care is he would remove himself from the house and go out and water the garden with a drink and just stand and water the garden. And that was his way of like escaping the chaos from the house, escaping the chaos from the day, and just taking that 5-10 minutes to water the garden, the lawn, whatever it is. And I thought that's like a real man's way of like meditating, or do you know what I mean? Like just being out and just focusing on that one thing. And I thought that was really cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, or like mowing the lawn. I think that's my husband's one, is just like he chucks in music
Mm.
and gets on the ride on and just
Yeah.
cuts the lawn. And that, those little things, it just doesn't sound like self-care because it's a chore, but sometimes you just have to make it enjoyable.
I think it's just all about kind of escaping your mind for a little bit and
Yeah, the
escaping your
mundane routine
responsibilities. Yeah.
sometimes help you escape. Yeah.
Yeah, so we also had some good questions come through from you guys. So we thought we'd answer some of those. The first question that came through was about friendships. So my son is autistic and not interested in friends. Do you try and engage them with friends? I was really like reflecting on this one because the wording of this question, it's almost under the assumption that they aren't interested in friends, but that may just be outwardly what you're seeing from them. And it's hard to know if that is an interest of theirs or not.
I have lots of ideas with this that have
Yeah,
sprung to mind. So this might end up being a long episode.
that's
My
fine.
first thought, one of my first thoughts was what you just said, Jess. And also to add to that is what someone perceives friendship to be and what another person perceives friendship to be can be two different things. Perhaps, just being engaged in an activity that they really enjoy with someone alongside them is having a friendship to them, is experiencing a friendship, that they're their friend, even if you don't see them physically interacting with them, having a conversation with them, whatever, just being in the vicinity of other kids doing something
Yeah,
can be friendship. So it's, yeah,
that's
another
very
thing to
true.
think of is it's up to, like, if the child expresses that they want to be engaged in more things, they want to, you know, go to birthday parties or whatever it is, well, then that's when I kind of figure it like, okay, it's a kind of a problem in the sense that this is what they want, but they're not actually meeting that goal. So then I will look at it and go, okay, what needs to be put in place? Do they need some strategies for themselves? Do they need, some skill building in some area? But if they generally they're happy the way they are, they're happy with the friendship level that they have, say, like I just said about sitting next to other children, or they're jumping online and having a chat to random kids on a game, and that's filling up their I know, friendship cup, and that's all
Yeah.
that they're happy with, well, that's fine. We don't have to get involved. We don't have to encourage more than that. We want to just meet them where they're at, and where they're happy to do
Yeah.
that. But I did have my first experience on the weekends of observing my child. So Florence is 3, and because I've never, we haven't really been to other social gatherings. I've only ever seen her interact with her cousins and interact with my kids, like her brothers. And she um, does role playing with them. She does collaborative play. I've only ever seen her do that type of play. And she got invited to a birthday party in the weekend, her first one, and she was so excited. And she's like, "I'm going to see my friend." And then we went to this birthday party, and they had soft play and a jumping castle and all of that kind of stuff. And I just watched her. She was amazing at like saying to me, "I don't want to go there because there's too many people," and she was navigating that. But watching her have the time of her life without actually interacting with any of the other children was a really, but like for me, it was a bit bizarre to go, "Wow, I haven't actually seen this side of her before," and kind of
Yeah.
took me back to my own school days and my childhood, and reflecting on how I perceived friendships and what I would have looked like, because I was always on the outer of the group, but I felt like I was part of it. At the time, I felt like I was part of it. So I didn't have it like, yeah, in speaking to her after the party, I'm like, "Oh, did you have fun with your friends?" And she said, "Yeah, I had a great time." And I thought, so what does it matter what I looked like, how I perceived that? To her, she had a fantastic time with her friends and she was happy with that. So from what the outside world sees to what the actual experience is, two different things sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to like what the medical model of disability teaches us when we first get that diagnosis is like very much like, oh, you should put them in daycare to socialize. You should make sure that they socialize, make sure they socialize. Like that was drilled into us by our pediatricians at the time. And like at the time, you're like, oh, yeah, like I need to do what they say. It's kind of, a specialist opinion. But as you go on, it's like, why is that such a necessary goal? I've actually even recently considered removing that goal from Jacob's NDIS plan because I know, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I know that he doesn't want to go to social events. And I'm probably shouldn't assume that. But from what I can see, he doesn't want to attend whenever we go places like that. He gets back in the car. So you would assume I don't want to attend that. He likes his own space. He likes to play by himself. And that's okay. And I actually also wanted to bring up, I was talking to an autistic adult who on Instagram, and she was saying that she reframed the way that she thought about friendships in that she believes that the ones who are online, the people that she speaks to in her inbox every day, are her friends. And she doesn't feel the need to see them in real life or to socialize with them, go out with them. She gets her social interaction out of speaking with people through message. I thought that was such an eye opener for me because I was like, hey, I like that too.
Yeah,
um,
me too.
and it's just so much nicer. And yeah, it suits different people with different needs. And it shouldn't just be like one way to socialize in this society. We're all different and we all need
Yeah.
different things, different
And I
ways.
go back again to what's the goal? So what's the goal of socialization for humans? What's the goal? It's connection. It's
Mm,
literally connection and well-being. So however you get connection with other people, feeling like, you're in a place where you belong, feeling like you've got a community around you. That could just be in your family. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be outside people. Um,
yeah,
unless you want it to be, unless you feel like you're lonely and you're missing something and you need extras, well, then you can go and search for that in however capacity suits you. So I think it's hard for parents though, because like I said, I just had that experience on the weekend of watching my daughter and thinking, oh wow, like she's not, she's really cool. I want the other girls to like really, know more about her. And
yeah.
they're still learning about her, but not, in depth, because she just doesn't interact that way. So yeah, I can understand now. I never really got that view before of parents feeling, I don't know, sorry for their kids not having friends. I think I just kind of got that, yeah, just seeing that on the weekend, I just got that first initial feeling. But then when I reflected and processed it, I'm like, no, this is just what, we get told from society and all those kind of things. I broke it down and then I was okay with it. But yeah, that first face value, I can understand where parents come from sometimes.
Yeah. And I think it just comes down to like what society says they should do. And yeah, that's a really interesting story. I definitely notice a lot in my kids as well, just watching them play. It's interesting observing them.
Yeah.
Um, we had another question. So that's, how do you explain to other children that a child is nonverbal? I'll change that to non-speaking, but they can understand if they talk to them. For context, my son communicated via AAC device. He likes to chase other kids around and play alongside them, but I struggled to find the words to describe him that little people will understand. Sorry, words.
Yeah, it's fine. Hard to read it out too. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so a few things in this, like when I read this, I was like, oh, he's playing alongside other kids. I don't know if there is necessarily a need, and I don't know the situation other than what I've read. But if he's playing with the other kids, is there a real need to, I want to say interfere, but I think once you notice like natural interaction happens, kids um kids pick up on a lot of things. So they'll watch him communicate via his device. They're already playing with him. It's almost like, should we step back and just let it happen and see how kids like interact with him? And the other thing I thought about was only stepping in when obviously there's a bit of confusion. So I think this new generation, especially our little people, are understanding a lot more and getting more education on this stuff. We see an AAC device in Sesame Street. Like, that's cool. Like, one of the biggest kids shows, and kids are seeing that on a TV show. They're going to pick this stuff up. And as long as our kids are like seeing all these things and being aware, like, I think it's okay to step back. Obviously, if you do want to communicate that to them, I think it's pretty simple. You can just be like, oh, this is how he likes to speak. This is his voice, but he can hear you. So you can talk to him how you would talk to anyone else. Like, I think it's just as simple as that. Do you think that's
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah. I think don't give kids enough credit for how much they know and how understanding they can be without an explanation. I think because, their brains are still learning and they're learning all the time. So that, you know, when we're adults, we feel like we know a lot. And then when we come across, say, something like that, that's something new. And then we're like, it shocks us a little bit, not
Yeah.
that particularly, but something, it doesn't shock me. But do you get what I mean? Like if it's
Yeah.
something that we haven't seen before, we're a bit like curious, shocked a little bit because we feel like we've known everything. But for kids, they're learning every day. They come across new things every day. If that's something that they've just come across, that's just another thing they've learned today. That's not such a huge deal to kids, I don't think. But yeah, I think what you said, if it's just kids at a park, for instance, and they're, it's the first time they're interacting and they're probably not going to see them again and they're interacting fine, I would just leave it at that. But if it's in a like classroom or an early childhood setting where they're seeing them constantly and there might need to be some, adjustments or things put in place so that they can communicate better, then that is when explanation, I think, is needed. But
Yeah.
it can be really simple. Like I've been in early childhood settings where a child has just been diagnosed with diabetes, for instance, and kids are asking questions about that. And it's just answering the questions as they pop up.
Mm.
And they take it like they're so easy to understand it compared to the way adults receive new information. It's really, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
different.
I think two things. Like, I think one, if I see a child who's kind of like, you see that curiosity on their face and they're watching, I'll often say, do you have any questions? Like, I'll open that up to them because they're obviously considering something, like if it's Jacob's
Yeah, yeah,
pram or if it's his device or whatever it is. Obviously, if it's, I was going to say another thing, but oh yeah, like if older people kind of, they sort of come to this conclusion that answers to kids need to be this big thing and it needs to be done right and it needs to be thought about and prepared for and all of these things. And it's similar to when people talk about telling their kids that they're autistic. I had this discussion on my socials last week and I had a lot of input of people just scared to tell their kids because they don't know what to say. And I think it's very similar to this situation. They don't know what to say. And I think as long as you have the best intentions, I don't think you could say the wrong thing. Obviously, there's things that you might not want to say to scare them or anything like that. But I think that people think it needs to be this big sit down situation where you have all the facts and all these information. And I'm like, I literally just say to my kids all the time that they're autistic and kid and that, oh, yeah, your brain works differently. That's why you're flapping your hands, or that's why you need a movement break. That's all I simply say to my
yeah.
kids. And people feel like they need to have this big, scary talk with their kids. And I'm like, you're kind of scaring them a little bit.
When I think of that, like, I don't mean to make fun of people, but most kids, like, they've switched off after that second sentence of your big speech that you've organized for them anyway. So you could be stressing about this for weeks and working out the right words and all that, and then you sit down to speak to them and they've got the whole, I don't know, 1 second of what you've said and they've gone off or thinking about something else, and so you've wasted your time. So I'm just the same. I mean, I probably, because I had, you know, my own experiences and things, so prior to even diagnosis, I was always talking to my kids about being different and everyone being different, and, you know, people being good at different things and all that kind of stuff. So once diagnosis came, it was just a really easy transition just to say, you know, your brain's this and that, and then, yeah, I don't know.
It,
I don't know.
it's so simple. Read a book
Yeah.
that's geared toward kids. Like, I think just make it as kid friendly as you can. But yeah, I should probably go on to the other questions. So, okay, this question was, how do you deal with people saying nasty things about your son when out in public? I really haven't experienced this too much. One time we had a lady in a dentist wait room. Jacob was being loud, but it's a waiting room with lots of people in it. And we were waiting for, I think it was Jazz was having an appointment and he was being pretty loud, but he was happy. So I was fine. We went to leave and this lady just said really loudly, "Oh, thank God he's leaving." And I was like, I was like shocked into silence. Like I was just like, I can't speak because I was just like, did that actually just happen? Like she said it so loud to like she wanted us to hear it. And Jordan turns around and he goes, I don't actually know exactly. It was so long ago. He was just like, you know, he has a disability, right? And she just sort of like looked at him and he's like, I can't believe you just said that to us. We're already stressed here in this
What?
waiting room.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, thank God he said something because I wasn't going to say anything.
My head just went to, like, if that was me, I mean, you know, that hindsight thing, I'm like, oh, if that was me, I would do this. I probably wouldn't, but I just had this picture in my head of like going into my bag, grabbing out my loops and just chucking them at her and say, here, try them next time. That's where my brain went. That's why I laughed, because I'm like, how rude. What is
Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily about like, I don't know. I don't know if it was her assumption, but that's pretty much the only negative thing we've experienced. I hear lots of stories. Have you had any experiences of
No,
any?
I haven't had experiences of people saying things. I mean, I've got the stares and the looks and the,
Yeah.
you know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And that's like, because I, you know, for instance, a meltdown in the middle of the shops or whatever, we know talking and all that kind of stuff isn't helpful. And so, you know, you kind of just hold space. And I think people look at you like, why aren't you doing something? Like, why aren't you taking the child out or telling them no or whatever they assume that you should do. So yeah, I find that hard because yeah, people are staring at you and they're expecting you to react, and what can you do? So you just kind of stand there, and sometimes I'm like, can the ground just open up and swallow us whole now, because everyone's, you know,
Yeah.
I try and phase them out. So I try not, like, I just
Yeah.
try and tell my child what I need to do and try and forget that there's a whole supermarket of people staring.
Yeah. I think I had this same conversation with another lady a few weeks ago, how she said that she just was feeling like very like perceived, like because she was just sitting there with her daughter while she was having a meltdown. And Jacob's the same way. He doesn't want anyone to speak. He doesn't want anyone to do anything. He doesn't even want to be touched. He just wants you to be there while he's having it. And people have misunderstandings about that. I've heard of people telling people, oh, like, why don't you give him a smack, or why aren't you disciplining him? People actually say these things to people, and I'm like, I don't know what would happen if I heard that. I don't know. Like, I think I go into like this stunned kind of like state. Obviously, my head would go, oh, I wish I could say all the things. But yeah, it's hard.
I don't think I would react very nicely, to be honest. I
Mm,
would like to think that I would be calm, but I don't think I would, because knowing my past history, just people saying to things about me to me is enough for me to, like, I'm comfortable in confrontation in the way that I will bite back. But if someone was to say something about my own like my child, I don't
mm.
know, that protective mother instinct, I don't know, I don't think it would end very well.
Mama bear comes out.
Yeah, no advice for that, sorry.
So, did we want to head on to some of the comments that we had? So, we asked you guys for feedback on the podcast, how you thought the season went. Yeah, and your perspectives on it, I guess. So, the number one was, thank you for sharing your experiences. It helps me feel less alone, which is awesome to hear. This is exactly why we started this podcast. Someone said, love listening to them. I'm only a few in, as I tend to watch while cooking dinner when I can. That's awesome. Adding those self-care.
My face is in someone's kitchen. That's
Isn't that bizarre? Like, you're thinking, oh, this is another question. What has been your favorite part of filming the podcast or recording the podcast?
so many.
I think we just love chatting. It's
Yeah,
special interest
yeah,
for both of ours, I think. So,
yeah. It fills my social cup, because I talk to people in message,
mm,
and like now I'm doing prac, I'm actually seeing other adults. But apart from that, it's like before that, it was just me and the kids, and the
yeah.
only other adult face I see is like my husband or my mum,
Mm,
pretty much for week in, week out. So yeah, it's nice to see someone else and talk about stuff.
yeah, it's been
Yeah.
fun. Um, Another comment is embracing our family and not trying to compare to neurotypical norms. Your podcast pulled me out of a sad week. Thank you.
Oh,
I
look,
think that's when
goosebumps.
I think that's when I asked what people have gotten out of the podcast, which is really cool that you got that out of it, because that's an important thing to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Embrace. Someone else said that it's amazing, so relatable and reassuring, which is really cool. Another question is, what is our hopes for the future of the podcast? Do we have any goals?
Did
I
we
think
have any major goals when we started? No. Did we?
we're just doing it.
Yeah. We're just winging the whole thing. The goal at the start was like, let's do a podcast. And that was it. That
Yeah.
was it.
I think a goal is just to connect and get it out, the experiences, I guess. I say information out there, but I guess it's experience. Get the experience out there, help other mums and dads who are listening or watching, just to like relate, feel like you're part of this conversation. I wish that you guys were, like, I wish we could all just talk about this all day, every day.
Yeah, it would be really nice to have like guests on one day, but I don't know how we'll work out the logistics of that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Maybe in our downtime, maybe we can start researching on, I mean, our downtime. How funny is that? Um, and our break, haha, from the podcast, I mean. But yeah, I also think like something that I didn't think that would happen, or didn't really think that far about this podcast, is like we wanted to start it for parents of autistic children or neurodivergent children. But as we've gone on and I'm talking to people, there's so many people that tune in to listen that do not have neurodivergent children, educators, yeah, all types of people actually have been starting to listen. And I think that's really great because I've heard feedback that they're learning from our experiences. So that like that can have a ripple effect in the wider
That's so
community. So
cool.
that's really cool.
That's
Yeah.
that's awesome that we can provide that type of insight, because I think a lot of people, myself included, you feel very isolated on this journey until you connect with people. But having your support system like teachers, friends, family, even listening to podcasts like this, educating themselves, like that's so helpful. And the fact that people are doing that for their students or for their friends is incredible. Everyone should be doing it, but I feel like it's just a really positive thing to have a friend in your life who's learning because of your child, or, you know.
Yeah.
But as for like goals, I think one goal we have is we want to do season 2.
Yes. Yes.
We want to have a break first because I think we could do with a little break and come back refreshed, and we've got so many topics that we can talk about.
Yeah.
We've asked you guys,
Scratch the surface.
have like 100 episodes, I feel like, and still keep going. But if there's anything that you guys would want us to talk about on the podcast in season 2, crazy that we're saying that, we'll put up a post on our Instagram, maybe asking for some content ideas. I feel like we often have like the main topics like sleep or food, but if you ever want like a sort of a detailed part of a topic, we'd happily talk about that. But yeah, did we want to do a little recap on a little life update to
Do
end?
you want to go first? Since
So
you came up with that.
I did want to share, and this is not for me, this is a Jacob update, but he has been starting to use his AAC device a bit more, and I thought that was really fun to sort of bring into our podcast episode, because it was a pretty big thing for him. Finding a way for us to communicate together has been hard for like 7 years. And so now that we've kind of opened him up to AAC, which he's used it in the past, but then kind of resisted it a little bit. So we put it away. And then he just like on his own brought it out and was like, handed it to me like this. And I was like, oh, I've got to go charge it. And so I ran off and charged it. And he's been using it, and it's been like so cool to see.
Keeps using it. He finds the value in it and he keeps using it because that will be so beneficial, I think. I
Yeah,
think that's
I think we are just like getting rid of all the demands around it, and just
yeah, yeah.
it's going to be there if he wants to use it, and he's been using it. Another little update, I guess, is I've got a few openings for my social work sessions if anyone ever needs any support. I have a new role coming in, which I'm excited to share about, but I can't share about it yet. So in season
Oh,
2, in
leave
season
us in
2,
suspense now.
it's fully going to impact a lot of parents, and I don't want to say that as like a personal thing. This is a separate thing to me, but this organization is going to make some big changes, so I'm excited about that. But on to you.
Hear about that.
I can tell you off the podcast.
Oh, yay! I get insight info. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Season 2, stay tuned.
Season 2. Yeah, it won't be too far off, so don't have to wait too long, hopefully.
Okay, handing it over to you for your update. What's going on in your life?
I'm officially halfway through prac now. I did my 10th day yesterday, so I've got 10 to go. So I'll be finished early June. So that's exciting. I'll get to graduate. I think ceremony's not going to be until October, but I am like it's in Wollongong, so I'm hoping to travel there. I want to make a whole family thing out of it. I'm hoping to take the kids. Don't know how that's going to go, but that's the plan anyway. I want them to be there to see it. And then they're like, oh, uni again. They can understand what I was trying to get to. We are coming up to our first year of homeschooling renewal. I got that email the other day to say I've got to resubmit. So then that will be 2 kids that I'm submitting renewals for, and another one that I'll be submitting for like first time. So that's going to be a little bit of work for me for the next couple of weeks to get that prepared. But hopefully I'm holding out. I hope they give us a long term. Like we got a year last time. I've heard of people getting like 2 and 3 years. So
okay,
fingers crossed, maybe. And on top of all of that, now that uni's kind of like coming to an end, I'm starting to ramp up online a little bit more and, stepping into what I was hoping to do when I started uni, and that is to put some supports out. So I'm in the background working on don't even know what to call it right now, like a webinar, course, masterclass, workshop thing. I don't really know. I don't know. I'm still working out the names of what I'm going to call it, but yeah, I'm working on that. I'm really excited about that. And yeah, hopefully that was just a stepping stone to then open up, more supports. So that's pretty exciting.
Really exciting. That's, finishing uni is a huge thing. Like people don't understand unless they
I honestly like, my mind's blown when I think about it, because I started the graduate certificate. It was like a 6-month thing, and I thought, oh, I'll just do one subject and like stretch it out. So it took me a year to do that. So then when I enrolled in the master, I thought, okay, like master's a bit more intensive. I'm just going to do one subject, and it's going to take me like 2 or 3 years. I even, when I signed up, said, oh, how long will I be allowed to do this for? And then good old me and ADHD or whatever kicked in for me, and I just like smashed it out in a year. So
good.
I'm just like at this point, like, did I even do that? Did I really finish that? I'm quite pleased with myself, actually.
It's an achievement to do whilst being a parent. I swear, like I don't know how. Like I did it without being a parent, and I still struggled. So
Honestly, it's been like a blur. I don't even know how I did it. And I like, not to make it sound easy, there was a lot of stress, a lot of tears. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm at the end now. So
well, congratulations. Maybe we'll post a picture of your graduation on
yeah,
our
I'm
page.
taking lots of photos. I want the thing like in a frame. I'm going all out. I'm never doing this again. So I'm going
I
all
want to be
out.
recognized. That's cool. And your kids are going to see, what that looks like. Hard work looks, to getting a reward, and what that means for them might be like, oh, that might be something I want to do when I'm older. Like, a lot of kids say that. Jazz always says that. I want to, because I tell her my job is helping people. She's always saying, I want to do your job when I grow up. Or she says, I want to be a McDonald's worker. But she always says that. And I think a lot of kids are like that. They want to like look up to their parents and see what they do. I think they're probably so proud of you. It's so cool. So yeah, that's so exciting. We are finishing season 1 of our podcast, and I can't believe it, but I'm excited to see what the future has in store for us.
Yeah. It feels really sad, but at the same time, I'm like, it's only literally a few weeks and then we'll start again.
You need to finish
It's
prac
so
first.
fun. Yeah, I need to finish prac and yes. But I'm always my brain's always thinking, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? I've got to just chill a little.
Next week you're gonna call me. I've got some time. Can we start it?
What do you think about this? What do you think?
It'll give us some time to sort of like plan and prepare some ideas. And
yeah, and like, what am I gonna do on the break and every Monday morning when I wake up? Like my instinct is to just go straight to the platform, make sure it's being posted, like make sure it's gone out.
Yeah.
And then that one week it didn't go out, and I was like, what do I do? How do I fix this? And I'm like emailing all the people, and no one's getting back to me. And it was like a whole, yeah. whole thing. But now I just wake up on Monday mornings and go, cool, Monday morning.
That's so, I think it's so cool to sort of like learn this from the ground up kind of thing. Like we're learning as we go, and you
Yeah.
guys are all coming with us on the ride. And hopefully, as we go on, we'll be a bit more knowledgeable about things, like how to do an intro without being awkward.
Cool.
I find it so cringy. Every single episode I've said, what do I say? This week we're going to talk about. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Okay, I I have a confession. I just let you do that every week because it's easy for me. Because I'm like, I don't know what to say either. So Jess does it well. I'll just let Jess do it. But I promise you for season 2, I'll take over that. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll be awkward for season 2. And you can feel a bit better about yourself
You
with
see, we
me.
get more comfortable as we're just talking about things, but just like it is like that, just like small talk and like intros. And
Yeah.
you guys don't see this, but before we press record, I'm like, how do I start this? What do I say? But anyway, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, yeah. It turned into a long
Um,
episode.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our podcast. It feels like a little family now. We see some familiar faces every time our podcast goes up. We see lots of comments from you guys, and we're just so appreciative that you guys like it
Yeah.
and find benefit from it, which is what we want.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. On to
All
season
right.
2. We will see
Yeah.
you soon.
Bye.
Outros are hard too.
Take care.